Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Well, I was going through some stuff in the overflow room where I'm doing our random review series, but not everything is alphabetically random. Some things were like box sets that I have stacked on top of the shelves and whatnot. And I came across this historically very interesting cube that I thought I might talk about, even though it's not available anymore. And I'm sorry for that, or a lot of it isn't, and maybe some of it is, who knows. It was this. The Chicago Symphony's first 100 years set. Now, these editions, these Chicago Symphony live recordings, were the brainchild of its then general manager, Henry Fogel, who we all know and love. I mean, some of you who are not perhaps as into the American critical scene and the orchestral scene may not know who Henry Fogel is. But he was the general manager of the Chicago Symphony and many other orchestras, and he's a brilliant guy and a wonderful critic and a dyed-in-the-wool Furtwängler fan and, aficionado of historical recordings, about which he and I like to argue sometimes, and just one of the nicest human beings that ever existed in the world of classical music. And he had the idea of doing these, getting some of the historical recordings, live recordings that the orchestra was making and issuing them. And it was incredibly exciting because, the American orchestral situation is extremely different from that in Europe. I mean, in Europe, most orchestras are municipal employees, or at least they exist, via public subsidy, and the management and government and association and technicalities of issuing live recordings and doing things, especially the radio orchestras and broadcast orchestras in Europe, it's totally different from the US, where they're all members of the same union, and that union has crazy rules about what can and can't be released, and things have to be negotiated. And more than that, there is no regular program of making recordings of orchestral concerts. I mean, it varies from orchestra to orchestra. There's no set standard at all. Most of these things were radio broadcasts that were captured by some of the classical labels around in the day, particularly WFMT in Chicago, and other things like other sources like that, private recordings. People showing up with a tape recorder under their sleeve, who knows, wherever they could get this stuff, and negotiating permissions to get these things released. It's a big deal. And Henry did it, and he was one of the very first to do it in the US. And since he did it, many other orchestras have followed suit with their own proprietary labels. Boston did it, the New York Philharmonic did it. None of these things were regular series. Perhaps the best of all of them and the most regular of all of them was San Francisco's program, which has been marvelous. But essentially, it requires a lot of funding, a lot of backing from wealthy donors, and a music general manager with a brain. And who really is interested in that kind of thing and doing this for the orchestra. And so you don't find them that much. They're limited editions. They don't get normal distribution. You can usually get them from like the orchestra's gift shop. Although I just took a look at the Chicago Symphony's gift shop, and this is no longer there. Although another box is, and it's for a very good price, by the way. It's the Chicago Symphony of the 20th Century. That one has like the Martin on Mahler third. Ooh, I have that one sitting over there somewhere too. But this was the first. And I just want to tell you what's in it because it was really a wonderful thing, a historical moment for American orchestras that unfortunately hasn't been followed up quite as comprehensively as I think it could have been and it should have been. But that's because I'm a greedy collector and I don't think there's any excuse for not releasing everything all the time and keeping it permanently available, however impractical that may be. But it is, in a sense, a little bit more incumbent upon the orchestras because they do exist in this sort of, tax-free zone subsidized by incredibly rich people. So there's no reason why those rich people can't say, make enough of these to keep it available. That can't be part of the deal. And it's not like they're paying, for inventory and whatnot in the same way that major labels are, commercial enterprises are. They can afford to do this. They can afford to have a proprietary catalog of great recordings. And maybe someday some of them will, because the material is out there. But let's go through this. It's got 12 discs and a very nice little booklet. It's in a nice sturdy box. I mean, these things may fall out, but the box is terrific. I mean, it survived, me moving it and kicking it around and doing all kinds of stuff with it. So let's see. Here's 1 through 4. What have we got? Oh, well, it's probably easier because they only have, this is not, they don't tell you what's in the back. So let me get the booklet out and we'll do it that way. I think that makes more sense, assuming there's a track listing. I don't even remember. The information indicating the tracks for disc 5 is incorrect in the enclosed booklet and on the disc itself. It should read, well, when we get to disc 5, we'll get there, right? Although the enclosed booklet correctly Morton Gould and Gould was omitted from the label of the disc itself. Okay, so they actually fixed this. The listing of performers and okay, fine. Let's start with disc 1. We have Frederick Stock, the early Frederick Stock from 1916, the founder of the Chicago Symphony, first conductor or something like that. We've got like a bunch of Frederick Stocks. We've got Mendelssohn's The Wedding March from Midsummer Night's Dream, and Wagner's Träume from the Wesendonck-Lieder, arranged by Theodore Thomas, who may have been the founder of the Chicago Symphony, not Friedrich Stock. I know these early people, they all blur together in my mind. Brahms' Hungarian Dances, the usual little tiny things that you find. Frederick Stock's own symphonic waltz, Liadov's Baba Yaga, Walton's Scapino. Well, that was from 1941. That was brand new at the time. Ernst Talk's Pinocchio, Merry Overture from 1941, also brand new at the time. And last but not least, Brahms' Third Symphony, back in the days when Brahms was generally played rather quickly, and all to the good, in my view. So this is all Friedrich Stock. And then we've got more Stock and some other people. We have the Donna Diana Overture by von Reznicek, Strauss's Till Eulenspiegel, Prokofiev's Scythian Suite. These are from the 40s, right? Basically, yes. No, the Prokofiev is with Désiré Defoe. Désiré Defoe did not last long. He had some major issues. Franck, the Chasseur Maudit, and Strauss's Death and Transfiguration. These are all with Désiré Defoe, which is fun to have. And then we've got disc 3. Wagner, The Ride of the Valkyries, with Artur Rodzinski, Mendelssohn's Scottish Symphony with Rodzinski, and Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto with Joseph Hoffmann and Hans Lange. Oh my goodness, piano people are going to be freaking out over that. From 1940, disc 4, the Hindemith Symphonic Metamorphosis with Kubelik. These are the Mercury recordings. Roussel Symphony No. 3. Well, that's a broadcast from WFMT. And Pictures in an Exhibition. That's the Mercury recording. Bartók, Suite from the Miraculous Mandarin. We're on disc 5. Oh, I see. These were in different order. So we have to do disc 5 differently. Wait a minute. We have to go back to the beginning to the errata list. So we'll do this correctly. Bartók, Suite from the Miraculous Mandarin, Hinestera, Dances from Estancia, Stravinsky Symphony of Psalms, and the first movement only of the Mahler 8. So these were with, let's see, the Bartók is Istvan Kertész, the Hinestera is Seiji Ozawa, the Stravinsky is James Levine, as is the Mahler. A pity they couldn't do the whole thing. Mahler 8 is missing from the James Levine Mahler discography. Then we've got disc 6, Brahms, the Academic Festival Overture, conducted by Paul Hindemith. Oh my God, in 1963. Hindemith was an absolutely awful conductor for the most part, as wooden and uninteresting as anybody ever could be. Ravel's La Valse with Fritz Reiner. Ooh, 1960. Satie's Gymnopédie, orchestrated by Debussy with Reiner. Prokofiev Symphony No. 5 with Reiner. Oh my goodness, 1958. Disc 7, Copland, Suite from the Tender Land with Reiner. Kodai's Galanta Dances with Reiner. Pierre Monteux does the Berlioz Roman Carnival. The Garden of Fond by Bax with Leonard Slatkin. Go Leonard! Yes, always somebody to do interesting repertoire. I mean, he's the best at that stuff. And then we've got Nikolai Myaskovsky, Symphony No. 21. This is the RCA recording with Morton Gould. See, they licensed some of this stuff from actual labels, too. And then we've got Martinon. Yeah, the Overture for a Greek Tragedy by Martinon, his own work. And the Derek Cook Mahler 10 with Martinon. That's quite something. That's wonderful to have. It's a zippy performance and very, very nicely done. Disc number 9, Fred Fisher, something called Chicago with Benny Goodman and Morton Gould. Kurt Weill, the Kleine Dreigroschen Musik. Yeah, the suite from the Threepenny Opera with Erich Leinsdorf. And Carl Rugel's Angels with Erich Leinsdorf. These are from the 80s, actually. Yeah, sort of later. Wagner's Faust Overture with Claudio Abbado. Mussorgsky, the Coronation Scene from Boris Godunov with Claudio Abbado. And finally, Scriabin's The Poem of Ecstasy with Barenboim. Disc 10, Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2 with Barenboim at the piano and Giulini conducting. Juicy stuff there. Shulamit Ron, who was a composer in residence in Chicago, by the way, her Concerto for Orchestra with Daniel Barenboim. I do not like her music very much, but that's me. Oh, this was fun. Fun. Shostakovich 10 with Stokowski from 1956. A rip-roaring performance with not too many changes to the orchestration, a few here and there. Really an exciting performance. It's absolutely marvelous. Kodai, Salmus Hungaricus with Schulte conducting. Wagner, this is the last disc. Dich teure Halle from Tannhäuser with Leontine Price and Schulte. Corigliano's Tournaments with Schulte. Mozart 25 with Schulte. Ludoslavsky Symphony No. 3 with Schulte. And Ravel, Daphnis and Chloe Symphony No. 2 with Schulte. And that is the series. It really whets the appetite for more. And there was more. There were a series of single discs or 2-disc sets, which I have sitting in the overflow room, which we'll get to when we get to them. They're under C for Chicago. And there was the red box of 100 Years of Chicago, which has, all these other, it's like this series. It's like this thing. You've got, different conductors doing different things. And it was a wonderful, wonderful day when orchestras woke up to their own legacies and started, doing something about it, at least in a limited edition basis. I wish there had been more, but it is what it is. And I just wanted to tell you about it because I just think it's historically interesting, and it's not to cause frustration and gnashing of teeth and rending of garments because it's not available anymore. You can gnash and rend all you like. Maybe the orchestras will make this stuff available via streaming services. Maybe they'll negotiate deals with the unions, but none of that's going to happen unless we, the community of record and music lovers, know about it and agitate. So this is my agitation for the day. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.